I confess that my breakdown between your mother and I has caused emotional unbalance in the family. Most of the time, I don't like my family. Everyone in my family. Take a breath. Everybody. I feel like I'm angry at everybody in my family. I don't like my family. If they weren't my family, it wouldn't be my family.
The fractures in the Braxton family legacy have been quietly rumored for years. Now, those whispers are being dragged into the open, this time by the men who were once part of the family. The ex-husbands of the Braxton sisters are finally speaking freely without restraint. And when you include the perspective of Ashley Braxton, a niece who says she grew up silenced, shamed, and overlooked, a different picture begins to emerge. The glamour, the music, the image of a tight-knit sisterhood. It all starts to feel like a carefully constructed illusion. And now, that illusion is beginning to crumble. What lies beneath is far more unsettling. Betrayal, hidden truths, resentment, and a suffocating sense of loyalty that kept people bound together long after love had faded. It began with a revelation. Ashley Braxton, granddaughter of Evelyn Braxton, took to TikTok to share her story in unfiltered detail. She claims that at just 16, her life was turned upside down following an inappropriate encounter with one of her aunt's husbands, and instead of being protected by her influential family, she felt abandoned.
I was very disappointed in finding out via social media because our family is closer than that. And to have someone else.
Ashley Braxton says she wasn't protected. She was blamed, cast as a problem, pushed aside, and left to figure out life on her own. The weight of that shame became unbearable, forcing her to run, not just from her family or her city, but from the country itself. She rebuilt her life in silence, because staying meant drowning. She was a child who needed protection. What she received instead was silence, and silence can cut deeper than any insult. Years later, Ashley returned and told her story publicly. This time, strangers online offered her support and belief, something she says she never received from her own family, from within the Braxton circle. The response was nearly non-existent. Evelyn Braxton, the family matriarch, said nothing. Ashley's father, Mikey, reportedly responded with legal threats, attempting to silence her instead of supporting her. Imagine being punished not for what happened to you, but for speaking about it. The only hint of compassion came from Tamar Braxton, who quietly acknowledged Ashley's post and admitted she, too, had endured trauma that nearly broke her. For a brief moment, Tamar stood as a rare light in an otherwise silent room. But the rest, Tawanda, Trina, Tony, remained quiet. No public support, no visible outreach, not even a gesture of care. And that silence felt familiar. Years earlier, when Tamar revealed she had been assaulted as a child, the reaction within the family was similarly distant. Instead of embracing her, her story was minimized, framed as her truth, a phrase that sounded polite but carried a harsher message. We don't fully believe you. It revealed a pattern, image over empathy, silence over solidarity. And many believe that pattern traces back to Evelyn Braxton. When Tamar attempted to name her abuser, it was reportedly shut down, whether to protect the family's reputation or out of personal pride. The truth was buried. But what does pride mean when it comes at the cost of protecting your children? As time went on, more voices began to emerge, this time from outside the family. The ex-husbands, men who once shared in the Braxton household, began speaking out. Carrie Lewis, who was married to Tony Braxton, suggested that Tony's rise to fame wasn't a solo journey. Behind the scenes, her sisters contributed heavily, their voices, their sacrifices, helping build a foundation of her success. To the public, Tony stood alone. But within the family, it was a collective effort. Then came Andre Carter, Tawanda Braxton's ex-husband, who described their marriage as emotionally exhausting, filled with financial stress, resentment, and unresolved tension. Their conflicts went beyond money. They touched on identity and deep-rooted emotional patterns. At one point, he admitted, "I felt like I married my mother, and I didn't even like my mother," a statement that hinted at generational cycles repeating themselves. According to him, things intensified when Tamar's career took off. Her success, along with reality television opportunities, was meant to uplift the entire family. Instead, it seemed to deepen existing resentment. While Tamar gained visibility and independence, some of her sisters struggled to find their footing. That imbalance created tension that played out both privately and on screen. Viewers of their reality shows saw glimpses of this. Arguments, sharp exchanges, and emotional distance that hinted at deeper issues beneath the surface. Financial struggles only widened the cracks. Legal troubles, debt, and unstable relationships affected multiple family members. And according to some accounts, support within the family often came with conditions, reinforcing a sense of hierarchy rather than unity. At the top stood Tony, with awards and global recognition. Tamar followed with her own media success. The others, at times, appeared to be fighting for stability. And at the center of it all was Evelyn, often seen as the anchor, but also described by some as a figure whose decisions shaped the family's internal dynamics in complicated ways. When you connect Ashley's story with the accounts from the ex-husbands, a pattern becomes harder to ignore. This wasn't just a story about sisters. It was a story about rivalry, survival, and unresolved pain passed down through generations. The public saw harmony. The reality, according to these voices, was far more complicated. Every scandal, every breakup, every moment of silence seemed to point back to the same roots: unhealed trauma, difficult family dynamics, and a legacy shaped as much by pain as by success. To the world, the Braxtons represented talent, unity, and strength. But behind the scenes, their story may also be one of silence, competition, and emotional distance. And now, with more voices speaking out, including Ashley and those who were once part of the family, the narrative is shifting. The question that remains is difficult, but unavoidable. Were they victims of circumstance or participants in a cycle they never managed to break? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between.